Hello and welcome to the Art During Wartime podcast, a program dedicated to celebrating Ukrainian art and culture. I'm your host, David Junk. Today, we're going to talk about the intersection of art and business and the importance of design. We have two special guests, Nastichka Zherebetska and Volodymyr Smyrnov from the design bureau Spiilka. First of all, Nastichka, did I say that right?
Yes, that sounds perfect. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. And Volodymyr, may I call you Vova?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Much easier. Thank you.
Yeah.
Could you tell me about a little bit about your background, your experiences creating a design bureau, and how did you come to start a design bureau? What all do you do at this design bureau?
May I start?
Oh, okay. Please.
So I will start from 2014. Back then, yeah, it's a long story.
Okay.
Well, I must say that both of us, we do not have any design background, and for Ukrainian design scene, it's a typical picture. Unfortunately, we do not have this design school or design continuity, and almost all designers I know are self-taught designers. So it's a typical picture when a designer, a professional one with a huge expertise, does not have a design background or design education. Vova, for instance, is a developer by education.
Engineer,
yeah,
oh, yeah.
Program engineer. And I am a Japanese translator. Yeah.
Japanese.
Just don't ask me anything in Japanese because my level is Duolingo at the moment. Yeah. I forgot everything. So, in 2014, we met at an agency that was called Ambulance, and at that time it was one of the best known strategic marketing agencies in Ukraine. They also produced branding and design. Advertisement, yes. And Vova was a partner and creative director in there. And when we met, I was an inexperienced art director, like a junior art director. So we worked there for like 2 years. It's pretty much for Ukraine, and I mean for a workflow of one designer. 2 years is a big practice. And of course, we had our ups and downs, but at one moment, at some point, both of us experienced our personal creative crisis. So Vova left the agency. He went.
It was a big escape.
Yeah, it was a big escape. A big escape to America. It was his sabbatical to New York. And
is that right? So you moved to New York? Okay, we'll have to talk about that.
No.
But please continue.
And I was at a stage of self-discovery because after 2 years, I felt very ambitious and I felt like I'm an independent woman who can create something more. And I was craving for some big career changes. So when Vova returned from New York, he spoke a lot about that and repeated many times that he'd been to New York. Yeah, we had.
When I was at New York.
Yeah, you were in New York. We had a friendly meeting, and I must say that we didn't have any business plans or any career, talks. We just were talking about our life, our desires in career, and so on and so forth. But spontaneously, we came up to an idea that we must create a design agency. Maybe because we just missed each other, Before that, we worked together for a long time, and we were a good creative couple, I guess. I hope so. And maybe because at that time in Ukraine, there were no design agencies, or maybe there were a few design agencies. As I have said, there were marketing agencies, the branding agencies, strategic something agencies, but there were no design disciplines or design-oriented agencies. That's why.
Can I ask you what is the difference between a marketing agency and a design bureau?
Oh, I will be harsh in here. Marketing is for clients. Design is for people. I mean.
Okay, there you go.
Like that.
That says it all, right there.
Marketing is for business mostly. Design is for people.
Right. Okay. Now I see. Yeah.
So we were people-oriented designers. We created Spiilka and started as a duo. At that time, we were fond of a Brooklyn-based design studio that was called Anton and Irene. So This bureau consisted of Anton and Irene. Yeah, it was a good role model for us, and at that time it was pretty interesting and amazing, I guess, that only 2 persons can cover the whole project. They were multidisciplinary designers, and they worked for big clients. So we were ambitious enough to start the same bureau or the same or similar bureau in Kyiv. We decided to give it a try, and this try is already 7 years old, and there are 8 of us.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I wanted to slightly divert just for a second. You obviously are a small business in Ukraine, and here in Los Angeles, I'm a small business entrepreneur. I have retail shops, so I completely sympathize with how difficult it is, right, to leave a company and start your own small business, but to be running a small business during wartime. I just can't even imagine the obstacles you must have and you face. Can you tell me a little bit about how difficult it is to manage a small business during wartime?
First of all, I really wish you not to have this experience ever, and that the fact that you can't imagine it is nice. It means that everything good, everything is pretty fine. The only change I see subjectively is that I have different priorities. I mean, before the full-scale invasion, again, maybe because of ambitions or something like that, I have different goals. I think that Vova fills me here. I mean, by goals that we wanted to be globally recognized or to create some big projects, to work for big clients. So the bigger, the better. After the full-scale invasion, we just want to contribute to our country to be more useful. That's it. In terms of difficulties, we have much less sleep. For instance, I'm still sleepy from the previous May and June. I didn't have enough sleep from the previous year. Yeah, and but at the same time,
from the air raid sirens, from the constant air raid alerts, right? Yeah.
But at the same time, work keeps us sane, I guess, because when you have a meeting, you don't. The missile attacks, they mostly annoy you, or distract you. It's like, oh my God, those Russians! I have a meeting tomorrow at morning. So yeah, maybe because we got used to.
2 weeks ago, they have a schedule. They started at 4 or at 5 at the morning, and one night they started at 4, and What? Why I started 1 hour before? What is going on? I want to sleep. I have to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to say, I'm so proud of both as a small business person to fellow small business colleagues. I am so proud of how you have endured during the war, keeping your small business alive and thriving. We do not have challenges like that here. And
well, we can bring you some.
It's really admirable. Well, let's get back to art and design. I wanted to talk to you about your incredible new project, your print magazine, called Litopys of Ukrainian Design. Did I say that right? Litopys.
Yes.
It's been described as a true testament to the significance of Ukrainian design. I understand this is the first issue to be published coming up here in May, and I congratulate you on that. Can you tell our listeners what the magazine is about?
Well, it's about Ukrainian design. You want to? Please, your turn.
Okay, continue.
We are trying to cover all the aspects of Ukrainian design, but of course there are a lot of challenges. First challenge is that there are a lot of blank spots, and even despite the fact that we consider ourselves to be the researchers of Ukrainian design, it's still pretty hard to know everything. And every time we write about some design figures, we find out so many things and so many other designers that were absolutely no names before. Yeah, they keep being forgotten, and unfortunately, it's a trend in terms of Ukrainian design. So. The Litopys, or the Chronicles of Ukrainian Design, is a huge project. We are going to print 10 to 12 issues, and I hope so that after all magazines being printed, we will also make a huge book and translate it into English, because as we see, the foreigners are pretty interested in Ukrainian design, and we want to take the advantage of war, if I can say so, and if it sounds ethically correct, because while we are at war, we are, I'm sorry, but more interesting for foreigners, because before the full-scale invasion...
You're definitely in the news every single day.
So, yeah, we are promoted by the war, unfortunately, yeah. So we want to take advantage and show our voice, to speak loudly about Ukrainian design.
Yeah, and we're thinking about it. It's important for us for two reasons. The first, it's our Horcruxes, like a pieces of Voldemort.
Death Shallows, yes, it is called in Harry Potter.
Yeah, maybe from Harry Potter's...
Deathly Hollows. Deathly Hollows.
Deathly Hollows, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's our Deathly Hollows, like a reminder that we, like Ukrainians and Ukrainian designer, lived and created, and even if our country will be destroyed, so the memory of this will remain, and maybe it will be helpful for future generations to not to mess up and revive in some way. And the second one, like Nastichka said, it's it's our story for foreigners, for people from other countries. Maybe they love us in such way, and maybe more willing to support and help the Ukraine.
Yep.
So I think if you like a Parisian, French culture, if you know more about Eiffel Tower, about baguettes and some haute couture, so you knew the French culture, and you're willing to support French in.
So the same might work with Ukrainians.
Yeah.
How much do you think the average Ukrainian knows about Ukrainian design?
Oh, like
nothing.
Yeah, like anywhere,
Really?
anywhere else
Really?
in the world, not much. Adrian Shaughnessy, the British designer, joked in his book "How to Be a Graphic Designer Without Losing Your Soul" that the fame of designer and recognition of designer similar to dentist's fame. So it's only important within our bubble, small bubble.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that. Before the full-scale invasion, when we lived in the peacetime, I would answer that it's the matter of personal taste, whether to know something about Ukrainian design or not. It's like being keen on football. Yeah, people are not obliged to know something about Dynamo Kyiv or Manchester United, even despite the fact that football is pretty popular. But now at wartime, I guess, or again, I will be harsh in here, Ukrainians are obliged to know about Ukrainian design, and we as designers and design researchers have to enlighten people, both Ukrainians and foreigners, with the knowledge, with information about prominent, legendary Ukrainian designers and their works. Because knowing is preserving. When people know something, it means that the knowledge will be preserved for the next generation. And not knowing, ignorance is destroying and vanishing. And also, there are always Russians somewhere here that will definitely take something Ukrainian if we consider it, not Ukrainian, or when we not know something. For instance, when I was a kid, I was told that Kazimir Malevich, he's a Russian artist, and it was okay to think so because like we were all Russians or brothers or something like that at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And now we fight for Kazimir Malevich. Severely, this is a huge fight.
Yeah.
It's ours. Yeah, he's ours.
He's yours.
Yeah.
Ukrainian.
Correct. Yeah.
I think probably the most well-known symbol
Yep.
of Ukraine, known around the world, known outside of Ukraine, is the Trident, which I've seen myself when I visited Ukraine. I went to the Motherland statue there next to the river and saw the great. That's one of the most beautiful monuments I've seen, and the Trident is proudly displayed up on the statue. Mm-hmm. And I've always wanted to know more about that symbol. Could you talk about the history of the Ukrainian Trident? I know it goes back to Kievan Rus,
Yep.
Some form of it, when Kyiv was first founded, right? Several hundred years ago, long before Russia, long before
Absolutely.
there was a Russia, there was a Kievan Rus, and there was the Trident,
Yep.
this great symbol. And then, as I understand, when the Bolsheviks took over in 1917 and Ukraine declared its independence from them, from Russia, from just anything to do with the Bolsheviks, in 1918, the Trident became a symbol of independence. Could you talk about that as well?
Yeah, back in 1917, it was like the first time Ukraine gained the independence. Semi-successful event, I guess.
It was
because
Ukrainian People's Republic. Yeah,
yeah, it didn't last long, unfortunately, but it was a good attempt. And our first president, Vasyl Krychevsky, a huge figure, we adore him, the best president ever, after Yushchenko. It's a joke, I'm sorry. He wanted to create national symbols of a newly created state, a newly created Ukraine, because of course any symbol is a metaphor of existence when you have a nation.
But he has a doubts. He wants to show that Ukrainian People's Republic is a very peaceful country and is a very peaceful state, and he wants, and he didn't want to place a trident.
Well, as far as I remember, there was a commission of designers, and it consisted of legendary figures like Georgy Narbut. He's one of the most well-known Ukrainian designers after Krychevsky, I guess. It's like Taras Shevchenko and Ivan Franko, the battle between two great figures. So the same with Krychevsky.
Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, Batman versus Superman. Exactly. Yeah. So
now I understand.
So the commission had different options. There was at that time a contemporary one with bold golden stars on the blue background.
With dove.
Yeah, it was similar to the flag of European Union, minimalistic, bold, and like pretty clear. Some of them wanted to use the symbol of a Cossack with a gun, but others were against this idea because they didn't want to refer to some specific timeline, or some period. Also, I guess they didn't want to associate to Ukraine to be associated with some military symbols. After all, at the end of the day, they came up with the idea to use the trident because all the criteria of searching or having this symbol were covered. First of all, they wanted it to be the symbol, the coat of arms, to be clear, like a statement, to be minimalistic and useful. I'm still remember, So at the end of the day, the commission and Vasyl Krychevsky came up with the idea to use a trident because trident was a minimalistic and bold symbol, first of all, from the perspective of visual aesthetics. And also, it didn't refer to any specific period in history, despite the fact that it has pretty deep roots, pretty deep historical roots. I mean that they say that Trident was first used by the Trypillian culture, and Trypillian culture is about 4,000 years old, as far as I remember. Maybe 3,000 years old, but still pretty old culture. One of the first on the planet, I guess. And also, even within the Kyiv Rus, or Kievan Rus, or Kievan Rus, I never know how to pronounce it in English. Well, every ruler had their own version of a trident as the symbol of the family, not just the prince, but also every relative of a prince and every relative of a relative of a prince. So there were so many tridents back then that it can refer to any of those princes. Somehow Krychevsky and Krychevsky decided to use Volodymyr's trident, the specific one. I didn't know why exactly. I don't know this information, but I guess this is because maybe Volodymyr was the main prince of Kyiv Rus, because Kyiv Rus was baptized during his rule. So maybe his contribution was the biggest among all the princes. So they decided to use Volodymyr's one. Well, they changed it, of course, because Volodymyr's trident contained a religious symbol. It contained a cross. I guess Ukraine at that time didn't want to use neither a military symbol nor a religious one. So they took off the cross. And also, what I like in this story the most, Vasyl Krychevsky left his magic touch. He was keen on using floral patterns in every work. So he put a pattern with plants, with Ukrainian plants, on the coat of arms too. Well, our modern coat of arms does not contain this beautiful floral thing, but we have only the core, the trident, the minimalistic trident.
But the trident is the same.
Yeah, the trident is the same. The trident made by Vasyl Krychevsky. Yeah.
Now you feature him in your first edition of the magazine, correct? Why did you decide to choose him and the trident as a subject for your very first issue?
I must say that here in Ukraine we have this Ukrainian thing to search for a father figure in every field. We have the father of Ukrainian literature, Ivan Kotlяревsky. We have the father of Ukrainian poetry, Taras Shevchenko. We have the father of Ukrainian football, Valery Lobanovsky. We have the father everywhere. It's like really Ukrainian.
I think we need a mother of dragon.
I will be the mother of Ukrainian design, maybe. I'm still pretty ambitious.
We need more moms. Best fathers.
We need more working moms, Anyway, we have a father of Ukrainian design, and we decided to make Vasyl Krychevsky the father of Ukrainian design. Maybe because he contributed the most. He didn't invent Ukrainian design, of course, because nobody invented Ukrainian design. It appeared organically or naturally. But he created the Ukrainian architectural modernism, which is like the answer to European modernism. In many countries and different countries, this style had different names. I hope I will pronounce it correctly, but the modern...
In French?
Modern, secession, Jugendstil. So
Art Nouveau.
Art Nouveau, And in Ukraine, it was Ukrainian modernism, architectural modernism. I understand that I'm speaking about architecture, but it was also the fundament of design itself, because this approach of using contemporary European style, or again, approach, and combine it with traditional Ukrainian stuff, things, patterns, visual elements, is the core of Ukrainian design. Also, he worked in movies, in books, in typography, in so many fields and disciplines.
A real Renaissance man, isn't he?
At the beginning of the 20th century, he was an art director and cinematographer. So he worked at Odessa Film Studio, for, I don't know, 20 films or something like that, and he worked with Alexander Dovzhenko for his first The Earth movie. Yeah. What is the style of the Earth movie?
Я не знаю. Я не дивилась.
Блин.
So Krychevsky is not only about quality, but also about quantity. He was a jack of all trades, a designer of all design disciplines. That is why we decided to make him the father of Ukrainian design.
Feature him in the first issue.
Yeah, in terms of Ukrainian Design Chronicles, it was really hard to start because we didn't know what is the starting point of Ukrainian design. For instance, talking about German design, it's pretty, I don't know whether it is simple to distinguish the starting point, but for me it's a bit more simple. I mean, there was the Bauhaus period, it's the school and the
I think they started
movement.
from Albrecht Dürer.
No.
Okay.
It's a subjective point of view, okay? So, and Bauhaus thing was like a medium between arts and crafts, something before the Industrial Revolution, and the design cell that follows the Bauhaus period. But in Ukraine, we didn't have this continuity, unfortunately. Our arts and crafts did not evolute to design. There is a gap between traditional arts and crafts and between the technical aesthetics, or what we call design now. Yeah, so it was very hard to distinguish the starting point, to identify where Ukrainian design began. That is why we decided to start not from the period of time, but from the figure. And Vasyl Krychevsky, as a person who combined everything about design, has become our starting point.
Now, I understand there's a museum dedicated to Krychevsky in Manhattan. Volva, you lived in New York. Were you there? Did you see that museum?
No, I was so ignorant at that period. And Krychevsky was preserved. Yeah, a memory about him was preserved only because of his son work and diaspora.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What does the Trident mean today in Ukrainian society? As I understand, it is now used as the sign of the armed forces of Ukraine too, and I believe you have a conversation with their brand designer that you talk about. What would you say is the power of this symbol and the importance of it for the army, for example, now?
Well, I will repeat myself because I have already said that in terms of Ukrainian visual identity, it's very important to be distinguished from Russia. We do everything, we do our best to be distinctive from
stand
Russian
out from the enemy army.
Yeah, that is why every national symbol, the trident, the colors, the fonts, everything, the patterns, the clothes, the garments, work for our independence somehow. I mean, not just the political independence, but also the visual independence. That is why Taras is the name of this brand designer. He created a huge work. He provided a huge change because now Ukrainian army is independent in terms of this visual style, and it cannot be similar. It cannot be messed up with the.
Was it because of its Soviet legacy? It wasn't different from Russia, and now with the symbol of the trident.
Several years ago, Ukrainian army
independent
looked similar to the Soviet one or to Russian one.
Okay. I think 8 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, not so long ago.
Because we start like any post-Soviet country, like any post-Soviet army. So we look the same.
Yeah, we look the same.
So various symbols were carried over from the Soviet Union and not changed until now, really, right?
I must say that even now there are some stuff that must be changed, that must be under consideration. For instance, as far as I know, the Kyiv coat of arms contains Saint George, and the Moscow coat of arms also contains
Right,
Saint George.
yes,
And
fighting
of
the
course,
dragon,
we
yeah.
must change it immediately, because we don't want to have any similarities with Russia, with Moscow, with everything there.
Does Saint George have any direct connection to Ukraine?
I guess it's a symbol of Kyiv Rus again, but it was stolen by Russians as always. They consider Kyiv Rus to be Russian, despite the fact that Russia did not exist. The swamp was there, but a frog is a Russian heritage, but not St. George thing.
Gold.
I really think that's
Yep.
something people don't understand is Ukraine. Kyiv existed before Russia.
Yeah, of course.
And
they
that is a fact that is not
they
very well
stolen
known in the
our
West.
name.
Yeah.
Because Kyiv and Rus
Yeah.
and Russia from Rus. So they stolen our name. Oh.
Your name, your symbols, your history.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
But the Trident now is very important to the army, right? And it's very motivating for them to see that symbol.
Like a symbol of resistance. Yeah.
The symbol of, again, independence,
Resistance.
the freedom,
independence.
liberty, so on and so forth. But I must say that not only Trident works for motivation. During this wartime, we have so many new symbols, and they appear every day, like Patron, the dog called Patron. I mean, maybe in 100 years there will be a podcast with a host from Los Angeles, and people will be talking about the impact of Patron and this meme. I mean, so yeah, not
What
only
is that?
Trident.
Can you describe that a little bit more? What is that?
It's a Jack Russell.
Yeah.
He looks like a dog from Mask.
The Mask movie.
With, a Mask movie. Yeah. He searched for the mines.
Oh, that's amazing! What a fantastic story! So
Yeah.
it's a mind sweeping dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
And there is a song about him, but I won't sing to you. Sorry.
Why?
Patron.
You can. We'd love to hear a few.
Maybe
notes.
later.
All right. All right, we'll get a harmony going here.
Yeah, okay.
No, that and there's obviously so many mines laid throughout Ukraine. I've read where it's the most heavily mined territory in the world right now. And when this war is over, and it will be soon, I hope, that's going to take a long time to remove those mines, and that's going to require many milos, many milos.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what a beautiful story. I wanted to ask you about something totally different. You have a government project called Diia. Did I say that right? Diia, which is really fascinating. It's produced by your Ministry of Digital Transformation, which by the way is an interesting name for a ministry, transformation. So I'd like to ask you what that is about. But can you tell us about this app? It's as I understand it, it combines, it stores your digital version of your documents, your bank records, your signature, your driving records, just about your mortgages, your marriage, just about everything is now easily, conveniently. It's mind blowing how you Ukrainians are so advanced in digital technology. We do not have anything like that here in Los Angeles. And I think it would be really great if we did. Can you describe how this app helps Ukrainians, and are you proud to have it?
I'll start from the end of the question because there is an inside joke here in our bureau. We talk a lot about our future tombstones. Yeah, it's like black humor. First of all, because you never know when you will die here in Ukraine. Death is closer than it may seem. Yeah, and so we talk a lot about the future tombstones. And also as designers, we are worried about the design of our tombstones. Who will make the design, the harmonious design of our tombstone? And I must say that the inside joke is that if there is a phrase he or she contributed to Diia App, it will satisfy us completely. So this thumbs down with this phrase will work out. Yeah,
So people love it, obviously.
yeah, because it's a huge honor to be a part of this project. I must say that, of course, it is very important for Ukrainians, but as I see, it becomes more and more important for our foreign colleagues, for other states, for other nations, because everybody wants their life to be more progressive, more dynamic, and nobody wants to have a deal with documents. When the full-scale invasion started, many Ukrainians, millions of Ukrainians, fled to Europe and to
Have to
America.
run.
Refugees, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
yes.
were a lot of refugees, and it's pretty interesting and funny that they complained that there are so many bureaucracy out there and everything is so slow, nothing works, that they cannot make some documents through 2 clicks or 1 click. So they were complaining about a peaceful life there because it was too slow. Yeah, because here in Ukraine it's much more progressive and dynamic. So yeah, it helps a lot. There are a lot of very useful things in there, not only the documents, but also services. For instance, you can buy, recently it was added, you can buy a car. Yeah, so all the bureaucracy that follows buying a car can be done in several clicks. It's super
Super
useful.
convenient, yeah.
Yeah, super convenient. Yeah.
Sorry.
Vova is already, okay. Well,
No. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm fine.
yeah, I remember then when Diia appeared, I sometimes forgot my driving license, and I was like, oh my god, the policeman will stop me, and I don't have any documents. And then, I have my smartphone, I have my documents with me forever and ever.
Everything
So,
was
yeah,
on the app.
yeah.
Wow.
It was really good. So I lost my driving license many years ago. I don't know where they are, but I have a digital document in my smartphone, and it works.
There's another really interesting Ukrainian project I wanted to talk to you about. I don't know if you can call it even a design project because it's much bigger and broader than design. It's the Esper hand by the company Esper Bionics, which as I understand, it's a project that has already changed and in the future will change the lives of many people who've lost an arm or a leg or a limb, especially soldiers fighting in the war. And as I understand, the Esper hand is a human-like prosthetic arm that can be controlled by the mind, and it self-learns as the human uses it. This is really incredible and personal to me because not in my home town in Ohio, nearby, there's a very famous factory that produces prosthetic arms called Willowwood, and they're actually shipping some of those prosthetics to Ukraine now. But this is something I think is even more revolutionary, this Esper hand. And it was even on the cover of Time Magazine, which is very impressive. It's one of the top inventions in the world. So what can you tell us, our listeners, about the Esper hand?
Well, you already told everything I know. I can only add that what I like about this story the most, that as our example, similar to our background and story, the authors of this brand, the constructors, the designers of this brand, do not have a design background too.
I think a medical background too.
Yeah, I don't remember what fields they are from, but I totally remember that they do not have a design background, the design education. So this can be a lesson for every designer there in Los Angeles who doesn't have the confidence to start the design path. Guys, if you don't have a design background, just start. Everything will
Ask
work
for
out.
help.
Yeah, just start.
Yeah.
So it's a huge thing, and when you were when you were talking about the Esper Dynamics, I felt very proud that it is a Ukrainian project. At the same time, as they say, the war is the best time for the progress, and it means that here in Ukraine there will be, fortunately or not, many innovative things that will be useful for military action or maybe for consequences of war. So like prosthetics.
Yeah. Another thing, it's sea drones, like Magura. So it's Ukrainian sea drones, and they already helped
our forces.
Deblocate the Black Sea. And
it's very well known here that how advanced Ukrainian drone technology is. You will be showing the rest of the world how to build drones. There's no question about that. And your sea drones, my gosh, I mean, what they've done to the Russian Black Sea fleet.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question about your relationship with Soviet symbols, being design experts. I know obviously Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union for a long time, and the Soviets suppressed Ukrainian identity and brought a lot of grief to Ukraine. But at the same time, you have spoken of your genuine interest in the design from the Soviet Union, Soviet aesthetics. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about what is your attitude towards Soviet design and Soviet aesthetics in general? And what have you learned about yourself by studying those?
We are smiling because we debate a lot about
you do.
Yeah.
This is a very active question.
It's a common question to speak to debate. Yeah.
And maybe I can say that our point of view is not popular in Ukraine right now, because we now at war with a big ugly empire.
Yeah.
But we think.
You think.
Oh, okay.
I'm not agree with you.
Yeah?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We have two different opinions here. Let's hear
We argue. Okay, I think the Soviet design has a place in Ukrainian design history with all his limitations and vices, but there was, Ukrainians created these imperialistic things. Okay, what can we do now? So we have to vanish all the memory about those not so, right Ukrainian, mm-hmm. or what we have to do. So I think we have to preserve and save the legacy of Soviet Ukrainian design. And after the war, we have to decide what we have to do with all these things. But for now, I think we have to save it.
So Vova likes Soviet architecture style, or tolerates the architectural style. I'm not so sure that I can tolerate it because, both Vova and we grew up at the district that is called Solominsky district. It was mostly constructed in the 60s.
Los Solomas.
Los Solomas, yeah, we called it Los Solomas, almost Los Angeles.
That's in Kyiv, right?
In Kyiv, yeah. Yep. And it was an industrial district back then, and I guess, I don't know exactly, but I guess it was constructed in 60s, 70s, 80s, so there are a lot of different brutalistic Soviet architectural buildings. Mm-hmm. And when I was a kid, I had to attend my dance classes in one of the treasures of Soviet architecture, which was called the Palace of Pioneers. Can you smell the vibe of the Soviet Union just by this name, the Pioneers, the Palace of the Pioneers? I had to attend these classes and...
Pioneers, salute.
Yes.
Stop being Soviet, Vova, please.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
So what I was going to say is that the building itself was depressing. It looked like a piece of concrete, and I felt like a small person, a small human, because it was depressing. Yeah, it was so huge. It was so monumental.
I think that was intentional by the Soviets.
Absolutely.
I think that's what they wanted you to feel.
Yeah, this was their intention. So at that time, when I was a kid, I was fortunate to travel a lot. Of course, comparing with other Ukrainian children, maybe not European children or American ones, but comparing to Ukrainian children, because my mom worked at a travel agency, one of the first in Kyiv, actually. So
that's convenient. That's nice.
Every time I returned from some European countries, I saw those brutalistic buildings again, and I was wondering why it happened so that in Europe there are so many beautiful Middle Age, for instance, or some other period of the buildings of the other period that are so beautiful, so striking, so elegant. But in my district, in Kyiv, there are so many gray, brutal, faceless structures, so many faceless buildings. So I had this aftertaste from my childhood that I don't really like the aesthetics. But of course, now, when I'm an adult and a designer, when I have this aesthetic expertise, I cannot say that I don't like it, because, of course, I like it. It's beautiful. It's an ugly beauty, as they say. It's not elegant at all. It's still a piece of concrete.
Simplistic.
It's still depressing, but in some way it's interesting. It's like comparing utopia and anti-utopia. Anti-utopia is still beautiful. Right. It's still readable. Yeah, it's still fascinating. So the same works with the brutal aesthetics of the Soviet architecture. I agree with Vova that both of us, we are against changes and destroying the monuments, because for me the best way, or the best conclusion how to deal with the Soviet architecture is the style of Berlin, the way Berlin managed to preserve the Soviet architecture. They preserved it because they wanted other generations, new generations, to memorize what was in the past, to have it in the memory. Because when you don't see something, what you see is what you get. The principle, one of the principles of design. When you don't see the memory or the monument of oppression, you think that it was fine back then. That Soviet Russia or Soviet Ukraine was a beautiful country where everybody, where there was an international friendship, like on this propaganda posters and propaganda materials. So I think that we must keep them existing. And even you just mentioned the monument of Motherland, where there is now a Trident. I was against it because I wanted it to be this monument of oppression, for everybody to understand that this very monument, is not just the Ukrainian monument. It's also the trace of this tragical history somehow. So I changed my mind. I like the Trident now. I get it. But at first I was in the opposite.
Understandable. So I know in your first issue of the magazine, you talk about a very famous Ukrainian designer who I've noticed his work as well. The design for the factory Elektromash, and I'm sure I didn't say that right. The factory.
Well, it's hard. Elektromash. It's even harder than my surname.
Elektromash. Yeah. That is and this designer's name is Volodymyr Pobedin. Volodymyr Pobedin. Yep. He is someone that you obviously admire very much as far as his design. What is it about his work in Kharkiv that really impressed you, and why did you write about him in this first issue? When we started researching Ukrainian design and started preparing ourselves for a printed magazine, we discovered an interesting thing, that it's much easier to write about older designers, the designers of Ukrainian National Republic, for instance, than about designers that worked in the Soviet Union. First of all, because those old designers, they have traces in history. They were printed in a
printed books. That is why we can preserve their heritage. But in terms of designers who worked during the age of communism, many of them remain unknown. Maybe because this very epoch wasn't constructed for the individual fame. It was the time of collectivism, of the collective achievements. And when a person, a designer, worked for a factory, for instance, all the achievements were gained by the factory, and the designer was forgotten. That is why
so the designer was never really independent, right? In the Soviet times,
absolutely,
there were no of the collective.
Yeah, there were no individual authors, I guess. Yeah, when while in America, for instance, there were already the legends of American graphic design. For instance, Massimo Vignelli. He worked at the same time as Volodymyr Pobedin, but in America, in the United States, there was this individual workflow, the flow of a design.
Sure.
But in the Soviet Union, it was almost impossible to gain some fame, especially in terms of some national design. When you wanted to show some national aspects, you might be destroyed physically. Yeah. So we wanted to mention Pobedin just because he is one of these blank spots. He's a niche designer, so only a few people in Ukraine know about him and his works. I must say that even we...
But they've seen him. They've seen his works, though, haven't
absolutely.
They've seen him. They just don't know who he is, right?
Even us, I consider ourselves like people who are acknowledged or knowledgeable in terms of Ukrainian design. We met Volodymyr Pobedin's works several years ago. Like 2 or 3 years ago, when the book that is called A Symbol in English, a znak in Ukrainian, was printed. So there were a lot of his works, and we were amazed that somewhere there, back then in Soviet Union, there was such a figure as Volodymyr Pobedin. And we wanted to mention him because we compare him to Massimo Vignelli, not because he lived in the same era, on the same epoch, but also because the styles, for me, subjectively, are pretty similar. I mean, that
international.
It's an international design. When we saw his works, it struck that this design looks progressive and ahead of his time. They look fresh, the same way the Massimo Vignelli works work. Well, tautology work. Anyway, Massimo Vignelli was a fan of aesthetic, minimalist, bold statement design, and it's pretty hard to distinguish whether his works were made like 5 minutes ago or 5 decades ago. And the same, the Pobedin's work. So, we liked it a lot, and we wanted to share our knowledge with our audience.
For the designers that are our listeners, and I'm sure there are many, can you describe, for the American designers especially, how is it different working in the field of design in the Soviet Union as opposed to now? How have things changed for the design profession? And I'm just curious how different it is for Ukrainian designers than it is for American designers, with this Soviet legacy hanging over you, and you seem to be breaking free. You told me that in the Soviet Union, designers were more part of a collective, whereas here in the West, it's always been about individualism. Is it becoming more about having individual designers, superstar designers now in Ukraine? Is that where things are going?
Absolutely. Fortunately, I didn't live in the era of Soviet design, but I have read about it, and it feels, pretty tragic, like a tragic history. I wouldn't like to be a Soviet designer, despite the fact that maybe I would have a good path and good work with a decent salary at my factory or something like that. But at the moment, we call Ukrainian design the borscht design. It's our metaphor. It's our personal metaphor of Ukrainian design. Why borscht? It's in our national soup, actually, because in Ukraine we do not have a canon, the rule how to make borscht. So every family has its own recipe of a borscht.
Housewife.
And every housewife, as they say, or husband,
House man,
house person,
housekeeper.
Yeah, kind of housekeeper has its own version of borscht. So it's like the soup that has 39 million variations, so, as many people, so as many recipes of borscht. And in terms of Ukrainian design, it works the same way. Every designer in Ukraine has its own way to create design. What I like the most in terms of Ukrainian design, that this lack of continuity, we didn't suffer from it. We took advantage for it. Okay, no one has the continuity. We don't have any heritage. We don't have the evolution of design from arts and crafts, but we can do everything we want because the main thing we have the freedom to create, and it's the best thing a designer can have. So I think that maybe naturally, and later the Ukrainian design school will emerge, just because there is a continuity, or there will be a continuity, especially if we win the war, it will continue. So we also will have students. We will be the Pobedin of our time, or Padlka of our time. So our design methods and approach will be preserved. I hope so. But at the moment, the design scene in Ukraine is so various, it's so diverse. I adore it. And I guess this is the only country in the world right now that has this variation of design, this diverse variation of design.
And it is because of the war that the war has helped spur these changes in Ukrainian design, or was it already different and changing from the previous, and the war has changed it again?
I would say that war contributed to the development of Ukrainian design. First of all, because we immediately wanted to switch from, for instance, Russian-speaking to Ukrainian-speaking, from Russian culture to Ukrainian culture. We don't want to be friends anymore, or neighbors, or just pals, or guys who know each other. We want to be separate from them, and we are getting more and more involved in digging the history, the culture, the design aspects. We want to know more about ourselves. We want to share information. We want to enlighten. We want to create design. We want to create chronicles about Ukrainian design. So we want to contribute.
Yeah. And maybe Ukrainian design, it's about imperfection and freedom.
Yeah, perfection and freedom.
My last question is, I'd like to ask you, tell me your favorite examples of Ukrainian design. What examples would you want the rest of the world to see and know that are Ukrainian, that have a special meaning for Ukraine, especially now?
I think for me, the most, best example of Ukrainian design, it's Kravchuchka. Kravchuchka, it's the utility bag shopper with handle, with small frame and small wheels. And you can go to shopping with Kravchuchka. And the most adorable fact about Kravchuchka, that it was invented on Antonov plant, on Antonov factory. So Antonov made the Mriya plane, and they made Kravchuchkas. And I don't know, it's a good example of Ukrainian contrasts. So we have, we can make a Mriya, like a huge, big airplane, and we have to, we can make a small Kravchuchka just to go shopping with them.
I like that.
Okay, I cannot beat this answer, I guess. I wanted to finish with something epic, that it's very hard to choose, that there are so many cool projects in there, but Kravchuchka made my day. I
Is that right? That's the best one. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you in agreement?
Yep.
Well, that's wonderful. We'll end the show on an agreement. We have an agreement amongst our designers here. I want to thank you for a really fascinating discussion on design and the intersection of design and art during wartime. Thank you, Vova. Thank you, Nastichka. That's been really a pleasure talking with you both. And
thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I look forward to many more amazing designs coming from Ukraine that we will be seeing here in America. I'm absolutely certain of that. Thank you for joining us on the Art During Wartime podcast. My guest has been Nastichka Zherebetska and Volodymyr Smyrnov from the design bureau Spiilka. Please join us again for our next episode of Art During Wartime.
Thanks.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right.